fear, ladies and gentlemen, because hope has arrived. Why? Because I am here. Watashi ga kita. And I hope all of you are ready to fanboy and fangirl, much like I am going to be doing right now, because it is time to talk about the My Hero Academia movie, 2 Heroes.
Oh my goodness!
How is it going, everybody? Oh my god, this movie was so much fun. This was such a fun experience going to see My Hero Academia 2 Heroes with fellow My Hero Academia fans. The experience in the theater was electric, and I loved this movie from beginning to end. So I got a lot of interesting stuff to talk about with you guys, and I think many of you guys are trying to rush out this week as well, trying to see this movie in the theaters that are closest to you. Now, I do understand that for some people it's going to be harder than most others to try to see this movie because some people might have the closest theater be 4 hours away. So I understand the struggle. The closest theater for me was about an hour away. So I made the journey. I'm a bit removed right now. I'm a day removed, but just gathering up my notes and just thinking about this movie again, I am hyped all over again. And I really want to see this movie again. So I am ready to fanboy with all of you right now to geek out over how fun this movie was. And I think the key word for this review is going to be fun, because this was just a fun movie. I'm not going to say that this was the greatest movie ever made, but for a My Hero Academia fan who reads the manga and watches the anime, this is what I wanted. It checked all the boxes for me being a My Hero Academia fan, and I absolutely freaking loved it. So I have my notes right in front of me. I'm going to try and make this as cohesive as possible. I'm going to be talking about my experience in the movie theater because I have an interesting story for the start of this movie to talk about with you guys. I'm also going to talk about the prequel chapters that tied into this movie that actually enhanced my viewing of this movie, so I'll talk about those as well. I'll talk about the non-spoiler plot, so in case any of you guys have not seen the movie yet. But then, for the later half of this video, we're diving into the meat. We're going to talk about them spoilers because, oh man, there are some fun stuff to talk about. So, just fair warning, I'm not going to cover everything in this review. I wish I could. I only saw the movie once, but I'm going to try to cover everything that got me excited and got me hyped. But if I miss anything that you found exciting and I did not mention it, bring it up down in the comments below so we can talk about it down there. But yeah, with all the excitement coming from me right now, let's dive in and talk about my experience at the theater. And the theater experience and vibe that I had watching this movie, I honestly think enhanced my experience of watching 2 Heroes. Just being in a room with fellow My Hero Academia fans, just fanboying over what you're watching is a great feeling, but it's the energy that you feel when you're going through the ads, you know, the trailers and the previews, right before the movie's about to start, and you hear all the other fans just talking to each other. You hear names like Bakugo, Kirishima, Deku, Todoroki, Ochiko being mentioned throughout the theater, and then you hear someone scream, Plus Ultra! Detroit Smash! That is just an electrifying feeling, and I love just being in a room with fellow My Hero Academia fans. It definitely heightened my experience of watching this movie. But I have a very interesting story to talk with you guys about. If you guys saw my tweet as I came out of the theater, I mentioned a small technical problem that my theater experienced about a minute of the beginning of the movie. So basically, in a nutshell, this was supposed to be a dub screening. We were going to be seeing the dub of 2 Heroes, but for the first minute of this movie, we were watching the sub. Now, that's not really a problem because I already watched the anime subbed and dubbed, but I was expecting the dub. So after we got a minute in, it just cut black, and then they started playing the preview ads again, and all of us were just like, wait a minute, what the hell? What type of villainy is this? What villain is responsible? So that was a weird hiccup at the beginning of this movie, and then eventually they brought the dub on, and they kind of skipped forward just a little bit. I think I skipped a little bit of the opening scene of this movie, so I definitely have to go back and watch this movie again. But from there, it was smooth sailing, and I loved this movie from beginning to end. So that right there was my experience going into this movie, the beginning of the movie, and then, you know, from there being smooth sailing. But the next thing I definitely want to talk about that definitely enhanced my viewing of this movie was a lot of the prequel chapters that tied into this movie, and also the special episode that aired during season 3 for My Hero Academia. So the All Might Rising Volume 0 tie-in prequel chapter of All Might, growing up and losing Nana Shimura, all that stuff really helped enforce the beginning of this movie, but then also the Melissa chapter that I think not a lot of people might have read that does actually give a lot of characterization to Melissa's character. And while I was watching the movie, certain things got brought up and I was like, wait a minute, that ties in to that prequel chapter with Melissa. I knew about her already even before I saw the movie, so having that knowledge was really cool, listening what was being talked about between Melissa and All Might and Melissa and Deku, and I was like, okay, I understand all of this. I understand why she wants to do what she wants to do and what inspired that. That was really cool. But another thing I really did notice was that special love episode, episode 20 of season 3 that we got this season, the filler episode, really ties in perfectly, I think. When All Might approaches Deku and basically invites him to Island after the email that he got from Melissa, if you watch that episode and then go directly into this movie, you don't really skip a beat. So I like the fact that that fillery episode actually correlates and ties into this movie very, very well. So I would definitely recommend going back and reading those prequel chapters before you see the movie, and I'll leave links down in the description below to where you guys can see my live reaction and review to the All Might Rising chapter and also the Melissa chapter as well, but also so you guys can read it for yourself. But now let's talk about this movie. There is so much to dive into, to talk about, and to fanboy about, but I'll keep it non-spoilery for right now for anyone that has not seen the movie just yet. I'll give a very brief summary of the plot of My Hero Academia 2 Heroes. Basically, the plot of this film is Deku and All Might travel to Island for the Expo, where we come to meet David and Melissa Shield. We come to learn about the relation between David and All Might and how Melissa is going to factor into this overall story. And then we have some villains attack. We come to see that a lot of Class 1A members are also on the island as well. And once the villains do attack, it's up to Class 1A plus Melissa and all the other pro heroes to take down these villains. A very simple and not really complex story to this, and that's kind of why I really like it. It's straightforward, it's to the point, and it's just a lot of fun. And the one thing I really do like about this movie is that it is actually canon to the overall story of My Hero Academia. It falls right in between season 2 and season 3 during the summer break, right before the training camp. So if you guys have just seen season 1 and season 2, you guys can watch this film no problem and get very few spoilers, I think, with season 3. There might be 1 or 2 here or there, but they are very small to where it's not going to ruin your viewing of season 3 of My Hero Academia. But also, this movie can also be viewed by someone who has never seen any of the episodes or have read the chapters of My Hero Academia. I think this film does a really good job of actually incorporating good flashback and recap to where someone who has no idea what My Hero Academia is can walk into this movie, get the gist of what is going on, be intrigued, and then get blown away by the action sequences, and then go to their friend that dragged them to this movie and be like, you know what? I want to check this series out. So that's the cool thing about this movie that I really do love. But I can honestly say for someone that has seen this series, you'll watch the recap and you'll basically be like, okay, I want to get past this. I want to get past this. But that is really like one of the only minor negatives I could give to this film. But now, guys, we have reached that point within my review to where I'm going to be talking about spoilers for this movie. So heads up right now, if you guys have not seen this movie yet and you plan on seeing it, I do not want to spoil you moving forward. So from this point on, I'm going to be talking about spoilers. So I'll give you guys a brief second to go away, but make sure you guys come back after you've seen this movie. That way we can just geek out together on all the stuff I'm about to talk about. That beginning sequence, even though I had the technical difficulties of not really getting to see it all, just getting to see young All Might at the beginning of this movie, All Might in his prime, showing us what he was made of, showing all the other US pro heroes how it is done, the rising star of All Might. I love getting to see that, and I just also love the fact that All Might and David, they're still in like school. They're like at college doing graduate work. And I just love the fact that they are trying to get to class, but also fighting crime at the same time. So that entire opening sequence of getting to see prime young All Might just going in and making a name for himself, a lot of fans have been waiting for that. Many fans have asked for the prequel of getting to see All Might in his youth. And I think this is the most that we are going to see for the time being, unless we get something in the near future. But I love the fact with all the young All Might stuff incorporated in here, it was a very nice surprise to see all of that. So that is one highlight for me within this film. But then as we make our way through the movie, you know, Deku and All Might make their way toward Island, and there are some very funny moments in this movie. The one that really comes to mind right now is when All Might kind of gets swooned over by all of the reporters and people that come over to him, and then we just see him with lipstick kisses all over him. I was like, yo, All Might's getting it right there. So that was a really funny moment, but then this leads into Melissa Shields being introduced, and she is a favorite of mine. I really do like her character. I love her introduction. I love her relationship to Uncle Might. And I honestly think that Melissa comic that I read enhanced my love for her character already, to where I kind of already understood where she was coming from and what she wanted to do. But they established very, very quickly how cute and smart she is, but also, we also come to learn that she is in fact quirkless, and that's how she's able to relate to Deku, even though she doesn't really realize that Deku was born quirkless as well. Deku kind of keeps that hidden to himself, but I just like getting to see that relationship just being built between Deku and Melissa, and just getting to see how the movie showed how observant Melissa actually was, which goes to enforce how smart and intellectual she actually is, because she notices the scars on Deku's hand, and then when he's going through that villain obstacle course, notices that he is holding back in his power, which ends up leading into, I guess, the MacGuffin of this movie, the gauntlet, the full gauntlet that we see Deku wearing, that red gauntlet he has over his arm, and where it's explained, you know, it could probably take 100% punches from All Might. So Deku has 3 chances to go 100% with that gauntlet. But I like the fact that it shows off that Melissa, even though she's cute and adorable, she is smart and intelligent as well. And it kind of makes me wonder if Horikoshi will ever introduce her into the actual story. I know this movie's canon, but I would love to see her pop up in the manga and the anime. And I also have the question is, how would she interact with Hatsume Mei? Because this movie kind of makes me feel that, like, within the future, kind of how All Might is with David being his support. What if Melissa was the support hero for Deku, but then how would Hatsume kind of fall in there, because she kind of already has that role filled? Questions I have right now, and I'm just wondering of the possibilities. So once we get introduced to Melissa's character, we then immediately get introduced to her father, David Shields, and we come to learn how prestigious of a support hero David Shields actually is. I mean, this man is the support hero for All Might, so being the support hero of the #1 pro hero gives you a high pedigree over everyone else. And the fact that he has made all of All Might's costumes the Bronze, Silver, and Golden Age costumes, and I love the fact that they are referenced in that way, and the fact that David also won the Nobel Quark Prize, just building up his character to show us how smart and intellectual this man actually is, and how important he is to Island. But going from there, you also come to see the keen eye that he has, and where Melissa inherited it from, because he was able to pick up just from All Might coughing that he was about to go back into his small form, because he was already well aware of the depletion of All Might's power. So he gets Deku, Melissa, and his assistant out of there and just starts running some tests to see how bad the depletion actually is. And it's not looking good. It is depleting very, very rapidly, and this is making David very, very worried. And this could all be solved if All Might could just tell David, it's because I passed my power of One for All onto Deku, but he can't do that. He cannot risk telling that information to David, knowing that All for One is still out there. Which reminds me, just a very brief thing, All for One's presence can be felt within this movie, and I love the fact that it is. I love the fact that he's not really here, but you can feel him within this movie. You can feel that presence of the lurking bad guy. And of course, you know, with the villain, tying back to All for One is a nice touch as well. But going back to David, this entire thing with All Might losing his power is kind of the main driving force of what motivates David throughout this movie, and to where we learn in the second half that he actually aligned himself with the villains in a way in order to get back what was taken from him, this Cerebro-like helmet to where it can enhance a person's quirk levels beyond measure, like insanely powerful. And he wanted to get that back for All Might because he did not want the #1 hero to go away. And when we got to that moment of David seeing the levels depleting and just seeing All Might on the table, I was thinking to myself, I'm like, please, movie, please do not make David the villain, the main bad guy of this movie. I don't want that. I want to like his character. But as it was explained in the second half, I'm not too mad with his character because it makes sense to me why he did what he did, and he wanted to bring in fake villains. The only problem is he could not trust his assistant and thus brought in real villains who were actually in league with All For One. So things just went bad to worse for David's character. I understand why he did what he did, getting back the Cerebro-like helmets, but he still did a bad thing, and I'm kind of curious what this kind of means for David's character moving forward out of this movie, since this is in fact canon. So I like David's character still, but I understand where he was coming from in the back half of this film. But going back, you know, as we're making our way through the movie, we get introduced to all the Class 1A characters that are going to be relevant within this movie, and some of the fan favorites do kind of get shafted within this movie. Sue is rarely in this movie, and so is Tokoyami. The main cast that we follow for this film is Momo, Ochako, Jiro, Ida, Todoroki, Bakugo, Kirishima, Kaminari, and Mineta, and then throw in Deku and Melissa as well. And they give pretty good explanations as to why each of the students are here, and this movie does allow this main cast of characters really good moments to shine. And my main shining light that I can say about this film is that it allows Jiro a lot of screen time, because I really do like Jiro's character and I love what they did with her throughout this movie. So getting to see more of Jiro interacting with all of these characters was a highlight for me within this movie. But also the fans, you know, the crowd that I was with was very happy to see Kirishima, Bakugo, and Todoroki. Todoroki got the biggest applause when he appeared in this movie during the obstacle course run. That was really cool. And a lot of people laughed at the joke and comic relief of Kaminari and Mineta, because I was shocked about that. And I specifically remember hearing a lot of women laughing at Mineta during this movie. And I know a lot of people don't like Mineta, but I found that to be very curious. You know, Mineta was very funny in this movie, and I was expecting people to boo him. I did not hear a single boo, so I think that's a good thing right there. So once we have all of the character introductions done and out of the way with, once we get halfway through this film, once the villains make their move and going towards the end of the film, this is when it gets action-packed and a whole lot of fun. The villains restrain all of the pro heroes, including All Might, and then it's up to the kids to fight back and try to free all of the pro heroes. And now I think it's kind of time to talk about the main villain of this movie, Wolfram. And the funny thing I noticed right away with this movie, they did not mention the name of this character throughout this movie even once. You wouldn't even know unless you actually looked at the credits of this film and saw that the name of the villain was Wolfram. So it just kind of goes to show how important or not important the name of this character actually was. He is kind of, you know, just the villain, the typical villain for this movie. I'm completely fine with that, but he does have a very unique power of manipulating metal, and he uses it to great effect, especially during the final fight of this film, where he kind of gets that Cerebro-like helmet, and then it allows All Might and Deku to go in. But I'm getting ahead of myself right now, because the one thing I liked about this section in particular was just getting to see the kids do what they do best, and it was kind of funny getting to see them go up this 200-story tower just fighting against the security robots and the henchmen of this villain. It kind of reminded me of like a Bruce Lee type movie, kind of like Enter the Dragon or some other martial arts film where you go up a level and you have a new threat to go up against, and you just keep doing that, and the threats get bigger and badder, and you're just fighting for your life. That is the type of feel I had, except 200 is a lot. And this kind of brought in a lot of laughs and a lot of good action sequences that I absolutely loved. This gave a lot of the characters in Class 1A of the main class their moment to shine. And there are just certain moments that stuck out to me, like Bakugo, Todoroki, and Kirishima teaming up, fighting back against the henchmen was really cool to see. Bakugo using his sweat and then Todoroki igniting it. That was awesome. But then that moment too, when Melissa kind of gets a little bit attacked by one of the henchmen as Deku is hanging out of the tower, comes back in, he just decks that villain right in the face and goes back to tend to Melissa. Love that right there, really cool. And then also getting to see Ochako, you know, floating up Melissa and Deku was a really good moment. Mineta crawling through the air ducts and on the side of the building for his harem. Another funny moment that got a lot of laughs. Kaminari going stupid. I could just talk about these endless stuff. I loved that sequence. Led up to the reveal of David kind of being in league with the villains, but then, you know, him kind of like regretting what he did. This is not what he signed up for. He just wanted to get back the technology that was his, but of course his assistant kind of screwed that all up. Wolfram comes in, shoots the assistant, which I thought he was kind of dead at first, and many of us in the theater thought so as well, but no one actually died in this film. Kind of wish someone did, but I guess it's not really expected right now. We didn't have any deaths so far in the series, so don't have any deaths in the first movie of My Hero Academia. Makes a lot of sense. But then we see David get shot, gets kind of taken by Wolfram. Melissa goes and you just frees the security system. All Might gets freed. Deku and All Might go in to fight Wolfram, and this leads into the action-packed finale of this film, which is a moment that many of us have wanted to see, and we knew we were not going to get it in the manga, and I am so happy that Horikoshi made it a point to have this in the film. Oh my goodness. Deku and All Might teaming up was the best thing of this movie. I got so hyped. The Sakuga, the CG, the animation going up against an enhanced Wolfram was awesome to see. Getting to see Master and Apprentice running together, and then having Yusei Run play at that moment. Oh, hair stands up, you just geek out, you're a little kid again, and just getting to see that double Detroit smash coming from them was beyond epic. It was plus ultra. And plus, can I just say, the pose that All Might made in that moment was absolutely hilarious. But explosion looked amazing, animation looked great, and then they just defeat the villain. He's still alive. No one dies in this film, but they end up taking him out. And I also like that moment too when David kind of comes to and he's thinking back to that photo of All Might back in his prime, and you see Deku in that same pose. I know it's not supposed to be a funny moment, but a lot of people in my theater actually laughed at that moment because if you think about it, it is a funny moment to go from a very buff All Might doing that pose to Deku. So I understand why that was funny, but I also like just getting to see, you know, the torch being passed and David now realizing All Might be on the edge of retirement, but the future looks bright with Deku possibly taking up that mantle and becoming the symbol of peace and becoming the #1 hero. And that final talk between All Might and David was nice, getting to see the final talks with Melissa and Deku, and we reached the end of the movie. And the ending for me was kind of abrupt. I was like, okay, we're not really going to resolve anything. We just got the end of the fight, a few talks, and that's it. I was like, okay. I would have preferred if we actually got a little bit more wrap-up, getting to see maybe All Might and Deku leaving Island and saying goodbye to Melissa and possibly teasing, oh, don't worry, you will see me again, because I really do want to see David and Melissa sometime down the road within the manga. I really do. I really, really do. Specifically Melissa. I want to see more of her. She was absolutely great. I loved the chemistry that she had with Deku. I'm not shipping them or anything, but I just like getting to see them interact, and how she interacted with all of the other UA students was great to see. So, with all that being said, I think that is everything spoiler-wise I wanted to talk about with this movie. There are probably so many other moments that I missed that were hyped, that were hilarious, and forgive me for that, but now it is your time, guys. Bring it down in the comments. Anything that I missed and did not bring up, let's fanboy and fangirl down in the comments about what we loved about this movie. I loved My Hero Academia 2 Heroes, so any moments I missed, bring it up down there so we can fanboy and just talk about it endlessly. But yeah, with that, guys, that is my review for My Hero Academia 2 Heroes. Leave your comments down below. Feel free to subscribe so that way we can talk more about My Hero Academia. And if you guys want to talk more outside of YouTube, feel free to follow me on Twitter. That way you guys can see what I'm talking about with the series, and we can just have fun geeking out about this series that Horikoshi has delivered upon us. And then just one final thing. Congratulations to Horikoshi. Just a big round of applause for his dream of this series coming true. Not only is the manga blowing up, not only is the anime exploding, but this movie was sold out at my theater and most likely a whole bunch of other ones. So to see it just booming with popularity, I am happy for this man. So congratulations to him, and also Studio Bones to giving us and delivering upon us an action-packed and fun movie. So that's going to do it for me here, guys. So until my next My Hero Academia related video, I'll talk to you guys next time. But bring the hype for this one, guys. Go beyond, plus ultra.